Horror has always been a genre where it has reflected so many different problems in society and has always been a very political genre. Dating back from the 30s and 40s, for some like Frankenstein, Dracula, and the Wolfman, for example, figures like that embodying the unknown to some like the 80s, we got all these slasher films reflecting the youth problems, crime, sexuality, and the change of norms. To the present now, but we have the new term being used called the incel horror. What's happening? We're back on the channel once again. We don't know. Hi, I'm Eli Valentine. On this channel, we discuss all things horror movies, new and old. So if that's your thing, definitely sub up here. So today, we're talking the rise of night sky horror, or known as now incel horror, a term that's been growing very much for the past few years, and definitely with a movie like Obsession trending it up way more. So what is an incel, right? This word over the past few years has definitely been evolving for sure. Originally, I would say incel is a man that who just can't simply get a romantic partner, who has been trying to get a romantic person but has been failing. Celibate, not by choice, right? Over the past few years, this word has been evolving to this idea that a lot of men frames women's autonomy as the cause of their suffering. Incel horror is generally not about celibacy itself. It's about that entitlement, that belief that affection, sex, or attention is owed to these men, right? And the violence and the psychological collapse that can follow. Like I already previously stated, horror has always been a reflection of norms going on in society. My whole senior thesis in college was about how slasher films, especially in the 80s, reflected the norms going on about sex and girls and how they should be treated. The final girl, right, usually has always been per or version, stuff like that. We have seen the nice guy trope done so many times in shows and movies and books, etc., etc. The Ted Mosby's of the world, the Ross Gullers, and now the Bears of the world. And the horror is taking these nice guys and turning them on their heads. A lot of these nice guys and these movies are seen as lovers, right? The ones that seek love, that seek romance, right? But at the same time, they're all lonely. And in a lot of these films, that loneliness is seen as sympathetic, but then slowly the horror begins when that loneliness is kind of turned into resentment. And then when these men are lonely and isolated, that's when they become dangerous, and that's when things become scary. Horror movies in the past relied on slashers, right? The Freddy's, the monster movies like Frankenstein, etc., etc. They relied on these bigger than life characters as the villains, right? Where now the average day person, your next door neighbor, could be very much terrifying. After that, our friend at work could be a monster behind closed doors. That idea always reminds me of The Walking Dead, because at the beginning of the series, the zombies are obviously the most scary part. But as the show goes on, we realize that the most scariest part about the world is not the zombies, it is the people that surround us. Because after a while, zombies are unpredictable, but people are non-predictable at all. People that confuse affection with ownership, validation with entitlement, love with control. The horror doesn't come from what they are, right? It comes from what they want to justify in the name of getting what they want. And I do believe the internet does play a massive role in this as well, compared to before now, where a lot of men who are lonely, who is not really getting women's attention that much, that they're online, they're in Instagram comments, spamming people DMs. I've seen it firsthand so many times. As someone who's on his main page, right, does a lot of girl content, etc., public interviews, etc., right, I've seen this stuff firsthand, and I've seen DMs firsthand. People are down bad. People are down bad, especially for a lot of people who do make adult content. They do feel some type of false sense of, this girl is into me, and now since I'm giving this girl money to view this kind of stuff, I do feel some type of ownership over this person. And I have had a lot of interesting conversations with girls who do make content, and I always feel fascinated talking about it, because the DMs I be seeing, the messages I be seeing is crazy. It's that entitlement over their bodies, and then it's this false sense of they don't view these girls as people anymore. They just view them as an item that they could buy or used to their will, which results in movies like Obsession being made. Movies like Companion, where it's an AI girlfriend. Things like that might actually be a possibility in the future, which is actually crazy to think about. Why have a girlfriend or a girl in your life that's going to talk back, that argue, that have their own opinion, where you could just buy an AI girlfriend robot that does whatever you want, no problems, no complaint, full on ownership, completely does what you want. What about something like Don't Worry Darling, right? Where he takes his wife, his girlfriend, who's doing decent in life right now. He believes he's going to give her a better life. So what he does is he becomes a liar and creates this perfect 1950s world for her without her consent at all. The scary part about that is that in his mind, he's acting out of love. But love doesn't require taking away another person's freedom for that love. Something like Blink Twice, where they take inspiration from the island of you know what, right, where you take wealth, you take influence, you take status, and create this illusion that other people exist for your own pleasure. And take the biggest example so far of the example why this videos are being made right now, Obsession, where we're gonna get into in great detail shortly. But why now, right? Why is this happening now? People has always been getting rejected. People has always struggled with getting love. But I do believe social media has definitely changed this. Like I said, now you can watch their stories, you can watch their whole life on replay, you can watch celebrities, porn stars, OF girls, whatever you want to call it. You can watch their whole life, DM them, pay money to DM these people. And then for a lot of people, when they do this, they do feel that sense of entitlement to these people. And so when you combine that isolation, when you combine that loneliness, and when you combine this entitlement, you get these movies like Obsession. By the way, the best test, if you're dating someone, I'm telling you right now, make them watch Obsession, right? After they finish watching Obsession, as like thoughts in the movie, like who is the villain in the movie? If you see any type of, well, Bear wasn't, it's over. Block him, block her, they done whatever. Get rid of them and your lives, please. Fortunately for a lot of men, their biggest takeaway from the movie was that, man, I had that crazy ex-girlfriend, which is not the point of the movie. The biggest takeaway for me was watching the real horror and watching someone decide that his feelings and his loneliness and his entitlement to someone's free will, like Nikki, was more important. But sure, at the beginning he breaks it as a joke, right? Sure, right? After Joe, you break him, I wish you love me. Sure, right? At first, that might be viewed as a joke. Let's say that was real life, right? Let's say that was real life, and a girl was on top of you, and then she starts tweaking out. At that point, you just leave it alone, right? But no, he doesn't. He wishes he was more Nikki and more normal, which is crazy. That car scene too. That car scene where he wanted to change the witch and altering the wish still is crazy. Not trying to cancel it, altering the wish, because he still feels entitlement to this girl. Her whole free will is gone. When you hear her cries as if she was in hell, when on the phone you hear her call and everything, and you hear her cries and her screams as if she was in hell, and he just hangs up. Insane. And then Nikki just begging for Bear to just end it. Bear said, what is so wrong with being with me? Even when she says, I had never been with you, Bear, he goes off and cheats. Attempts to, actually, right? Bear generally believes that if Nikki loved them, everything would be okay. He wants Nikki to act normal. But loving someone without choice, it just isn't love. It's possession. And that's exactly what the film is trying to present to us, and does greatly for most people, except for that small little portion on the line. Going back to Companion now, love that movie so much here. By the way, if you ever going to show someone a Companion, don't tell them, like, make them go into that completely blind, and I'm telling you that creates such a better experience. Find out she's AI. Side note, anyways, Josh in the movie, right? He, like I said before, he doesn't want someone who's going to question him. He wants that perfect partner, right? Someone who never challenge him, who never will leave him. And that what makes Companion so fascinating, is that the movie isn't asking whether an AI can love someone. It's asking, why would someone prefer complete control over a genuine genuine intimacy. And that's why I have been talking about a lot of OF creators and everything, where a lot of people are paying for that to get that intimacy through the text messages, through calls that are just false. A lot of times they are having someone to text for them, but in a lot of these men heads, they rather have that than nothing at all. An actual real our relationship does involve disagreements. It does involve compromise, vulnerability, stuff like that. But Josh and Companion, Bear, and a lot of men online just don't want that. And that's just nasty. That's why horror has been such the greatest genre of all time, because horror has talked and has confronted a lot of social problems, a lot of social issues going on better than any other genre can. Because the scariest things about these incel horror films is that the figure is not someone who wants to hurt you. It's that their belief is that they have the right to define your reality, and they have the entitlement over you as a person. And that's a whole different kind of monster. Horror takes these fears, right, that we're already living with, and they pump them up to 20, right? So we can't ignore them anymore. And similar to the movies like The Strangers, sometimes for a lot of people are just more terrifying than a Freddy, than a Jason. But anyways, guys, that is it for today's video, man. Evil Dead is about to drop, so by the time y'all seen this, that video probably will be out, and y'all want to watch that, go check that shit out. Y'all want to, you know what I'm saying? But also, drop to Instagram, TikTok, down in the comment section. We've been posting news, horror news, set of reviews, everything over there. Go post over there for sure. I mean, go follow that over there for sure. Anyways, we're off here for today. I hope y'all enjoy. Add on in the comment section anything y'all want to say about it. But that being said, he who. Down on myself, hope you're doing well. I've been honestly